In this video, I'm going to introduce you to an analogy that I use called the Valentine's curse. It's actually all about trust, but it's an opportunity to maybe reevaluate how it is that we intimately connect to other people, and unfortunately, how often we just run with an expectation of that person and of ourselves. So I'm going to share a personal experience and a bit of a story, and I'm going to play this out like you and I are sitting in the same room having this conversation the way I have with many people in the past. So play along if you like to. So the story I'm going to share with you has to do with when I was quite young. When I was young, I went to a one-room school. There were 8 grades, about 14 kids, 1 teacher. And because of that, it was not your standard, obviously, elementary school experience. And the kind of socialization and expectations that were happening in a one-room school were quite different than the experience I had in a more industrial big city school. And the biggest thing I remember noticing was what happened at Valentine's Day, which is something I didn't really know a lot about till I was about 10 years old. And they had us make little envelopes that we put on our desk, and then we took little pieces of paper in the shape of hearts and put people's names on them, and then we would walk around and put our little hearts in people's envelopes, because the social compact, as I understood it at the age of 10, was if these people like the thing that I've made for them, then I've made some kind of social access, or somehow I've been approved of in some social way. I don't think I thought of it that way as a kid, but I just remember having that experience for the first time going, wow, why am I doing this? And in the same way, I was hopeful that certain people would put their hearts in my envelope, because that means that they had some kind of affection or desire to spend time with me in some way. And again, I was probably 10, so I didn't really have any understanding of the bigger dynamic around romance and sexuality and intimacy. But I was aware that there was a kind of a popularity contest going on. And it became an interesting part of me as a philosophical person throughout my life. And I'll explain to you, and hopefully in an experiential way, kind of share with you why. So we're going to have to play like we're having a little bit of an intimate conversation, if that's okay. And I'm going to pretend, and hopefully you're willing to play along, that you and I are in some kind of romantic adult interaction. And I'm going to make a commitment towards our romantic and intimate interaction by offering you my metaphoric Valentine's heart. Please take my heart, because we all want to be accepted by the people we have affection for. And if this goes really well, in my metaphor, if I give you my paper mache heart or paper cutout heart, and you give me one as well, there's a natural, intuitive sense or socialized agreement that you and I are now intimately bonded. In a way, we kind of belong to each other, which can mean a lot of different things. So let's say a couple of years have gone by, and I'm carrying your heart around as a sacred thing, and all I want is for me to be able to care for your heart and you to be able to care for mine, and we'll share this responsibility and all of the entanglements and all of the joy and fun things that happen, and hopefully it's all going to go very well. And let's say it's 2 years more, and maybe I'm starting to get impatient or frustrated or judgmental about something, and in this metaphor I might take out your big bright red paper heart and hold a lighter underneath of it and say, I really want you to change this part of you. I really want you to exercise more and stop eating donuts, or I really want you to read the same kind of books or watch the same kind of shows or the same kind of sports, or whatever typically happens between couples. And that's just a part of what we call passive-aggressive manipulation. We sort of throw out little sideways judgments towards each other. We say offhand things to try and make the other person feel less valued or less worth our attention. And this is just a part of being an adult in a long-term relationship. And perhaps you may be holding my paper heart up and, threatening to poke it with voodoo needles or something to tell me how you want me to change or how you want me to be more of and less of. And again, that's just normal behavior. But in the metaphor, what happens if you and I decide, maybe a few more years later, when we've really started to hurt each other, and obviously in that way hurt ourselves, what if you and I made this really crazy agreement and asked each other, can I have my heart back? Because you're kind of mishandling it, and I'm kind of stuck with whatever you do with it, and my whole emotional, visceral way of being in the world, my existential way of being in the world, is pretty much under your control, and that's not working, and it's not meant to work. So what if you and I were to make this revolutionary decision, and you gave me back my autonomous, perhaps innate instinctual heart, and I received that, thank you very much. And then I was to take yours and give it back to you and say, I think this is probably going to be safer and taken care of in a better way in your chest. So we go through this exchange part 2, where we regain our own autonomy and give each other back our individual autonomy. Now, that might sound like a divorce, and in some cases it may be. But quite often what actually happens, and especially when I work with couples and we use this as kind of a metaphor for how we communicate and think of each other, once people get their heart back and they start to look at the other person and see the other person looking at them, there's often this profound rekindling of passion, of intimacy, of play, and of trust. Because it's very hard to trust someone who's manipulating your sense of yourself to control your behavior to be the person they want to be, and vice versa. And this is why we call it the Valentine's curse, because it seems to me, and I'm only a person with my experience, so all I can share is that, it seems to me that I'm actually much more interested in my relationships with people to honor the journey of that person and where their heart is going. That may mean that we stay together forever and have some, mythical Shakespearean love affair for 50 years. It may also mean that after a few years, I'm more interested in seeing you follow your interests, your passions, and your heart, and love you for you, even if we're not together anymore, than it would be for me to bind you in some kind of trap. And obviously in the same way, when I receive my heart back, and I recognize you trust me for me to become whoever it is that I'm here to become, I suddenly can trust myself to actually imagine myself in the world becoming whoever it is that I'm inspired to be. And maybe that's going to rekindle our relationship, and we're going to spend many, many years together on this journey going the direction that both of us share, because we share enough of those experiences and interests. Just as important, just as beautiful, just as loving, it could happen that once I get my heart back, my autonomy, my passion, my sense of agency in what I want to do in my life, we love each other, I trust you to be you, you trust me to be me. It turns out maybe I have to go on my own journey that's away from you so that I can learn to trust myself and follow my own dreams and passions. And I will know, because we've done this exchange of authentic trust, that you're going to love me as me even if we're not together. And that's, again, how we respond to this Valentine's curse. Because our entire Western culture around marriage and relationship and how we connect and collaborate and how we do and do not experience really profound intimacy, our whole culture is based on a kind of control and ownership and limit of the other person's choices and behaviors. And I'm kind of being a bit heavy-handed with that description, but I really hope I can help you see a distinction between authentic self-trust and love, authentic trust and love of another person's journey more than who they are and what they look like right now. And in that way, we become intimate in a way that is about our autonomy and freedom and our entire existence as beings, not just whether or not we get into a relationship and make it work and look the way we did when we first got together and behave the way we did when we first got together. Because that's what drives most people a bit crazy at year 2, at year 4, around year 7 in most relationships. That's most often when people break up, because that's when most of us instinctually feel too much tightness, too much passive-aggressive manipulation, not enough authentic, instinctual intimacy. And that's statistically normal. So my hope is in sharing this with you that you may find a way to rearrange how our heart centers work within our relationships with our partners, with our children, with our parents, and with other people. Because we really actually only have two choices. I trust you to be who you said you were going to be, who I want you to be, who I trained you to be, who I told you to be, or I'm more interested in who you actually are. You're more interested in who you think I'm supposed to be, or you're more interested in who I actually am. And I know that seems pretty simplistic, but on a big level of socialization and kind of impatience, the part of us that see each other as kind of a commodity, that is what stops people from truly experiencing intimate trust and profound love. So I hope you have a lot of good experiences interchanging your heart with other people, and I truly hope in the long term you find the wisdom and the solace and the autonomy in maintaining your own heart space and learning to honor other people. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you in the next video.